Hello, tea friends. This is Barb Gully of Barb's Tea Service, and we are back with our podcast in the studio, courtesy on TV. And I am here, as always, with studio engineer, co-host Arm Candy, Chris Gully.
Wow, we're in a new year.
We are. Happy New Year, Chris.
Happy New Year to you too. It's still an exciting thing.
It is. We're right on
That's right.
the heels of the new year.
Yep.
And this is our 28th podcast in the studio.
Yes.
But our first for 2025.
Here we are.
Yeah.
Living large.
We are. So this week we wrapped up our holiday season time in Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
And we did a little bit of Christmaka. We did our annual decades-old tradition of fondue. And we did our annual gift exchange.
Yes.
And I got some new teas.
Amazing. How did that happen?
I know. People just know.
All right.
And I'm going to share one of those today. I thought we'd have one of those today.
Mm-hmm.
But what are we going to talk about today?
What are we going to talk about today?
I'll tell you.
Okay. I had a feeling that was going to happen.
We're going to try at least to cover all these topics.
All right.
We have some New Year's resolutions for the theme.
Mm-hmm.
We have some specific Michigan products and events that we want to talk about in our hometown. And I'm wearing the Lions jersey. For those of you who are watching, if you're just listening, it's the Honolulu Blue. We're amped up for this weekend.
I never thought I would see the day.
Isn't that the truth? That's crazy.
Yeah.
Then we're going to talk about this year, 2025. It's the year of Jane Austen.
She's been around for a minute.
She has. It's her 250th birthday.
Wow. And that's in what month is that?
December 16th.
Okay, all right.
But all year there's events planned.
Okay,
so
very good.
We'll talk about that. And then we'll talk about a special tea in the D.C. area.
Right.
And we were trying to get to that
before.
But, so if we have time,
right.
We'll also do another teaser of that highly anticipated, at least by 3 people, Barb's Tea Services in and out list.
And these are the 3 most knowledgeable people, I think, on the planet. So there you go.
Well, right.
Okay.
So first, I want to tell you that last podcast, we ran out of time.
It's amazing how that happens.
And we barely have enough, even though you're giving the cues out.
Yeah.
So I got a new gift. I can't show it up to the camera because it'll unplug.
Yeah.
But
we don't want that.
One of the Christmas gifts from Rob and Megan was a countdown clock.
And it's sitting there in front of you, ticking away. And it's lovely.
Very readable. I just have to remember to look at it.
Okay, well, that is a thing.
But they were both special guests on our podcast, and they can appreciate that.
Yeah,
so hopefully this will help me stay more on task no, as you are fond of saying, don't bring me your problems, bring me your solutions.
I'm kind of a jerk.
No, you're actually a project manager of 40 years, and
that's what we do.
There's a number of them in our family. I'm not one of them, so not one of my gifts.
Okay. All right.
So before we go any further, but first, tea.
All right.
Okay, so today we're trying a tea from Steep.
Okay.
It's a Michigan-based company. And can we get that on the camera 3?
Yes, we can. There we are. Okay, it's up.
Great. Okay, so this is, as I said, it's a Michigan-based company out of Ypsilanti, and they have several teas inspired by places in Michigan.
Yes.
And this one is Sue Locks.
Okay.
This was a gift from, one of the gifts from Rachel and Sean. They were just at the Sue Locks in November.
Yes.
And they brought this back for us to try. And I just want you to, if it can be seen on the camera, if you see how it's spelled, it's S.TEA.P. So it's got T in the middle.
Wow.
Steep. Kind of clever, right?
That is clever.
Okay. So let's go ahead and, you want to go ahead and try this? This is an oolong.
Okay. We're back on camera. Here we go. So this is got. So it's a new long, so it's smoother. It's not quite as astringent as a black tea, right? Is that,
exactly.
So not quite as processed. Kind of has a little bit of that green tea kind of mouthfeel.
Yeah.
And you mentioned this was kind of more of a creamy.
Right. They describe it as creamy and smooth.
Okay.
And I think that's true. Are you picking up anything?
Yeah, it's a kind of a. I describe it as kind of a vegetal taste.
Okay, more on the green side than the black.
Right. Mm-hmm. And like not the best at this, but kind of a not unpleasant, but kind of a grassy taste.
I get
to
that.
It. Yeah,
yes,
right.
yes. Any other notes?
Almost like a vanilla to me as well.
It does. That's what gives it that. Why I think they call it creamy,
right?
Or they're referring to it as creamy. But it also has orange flavor.
Oh, okay.
Orange peel.
Okay.
But it's not.
No, I would not.
Base, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't have known that until you told me.
Okay, and a bit of safflower.
Right.
So, and it was named after Sulaks, the engineering marvel that it is.
Uh-huh.
And one thing about the tea leaves, when you look at it, and they smell terrific right out of the package, but the tea leaves are rolled up into little ball shapes.
Right.
So when you pour the hot water on it and they unfurl, they put on quite a show.
Wow. Okay.
Just like
your entertainment and you drink it.
Exactly.
All right.
Just like the Sulaks.
That's what?
Entertaining, right?
Okay. All right.
So I mentioned they have other Michigan-inspired tea.
Right.
They have Belle Isle Breeze and Pictured Rocks.
Mm-hmm.
Both of those are rooibos.
Okay.
They have Michigan Strong, which is a pu'er.
Okay.
And then they have a Lighthouse, which is herbal.
Okay.
And that would have paired nicely with our podcast last week.
Yeah, right.
Because we talked about the Grand Traverse Lighthouse.
Exactly, yeah.
So when we talk about another lighthouse,
serve it up.
We'll keep it up.
All right.
Okay. So these were some of our Michigan celebrations. We'll talk a little bit more about them.
Right.
But while we're on New Year's Day week,
yes,
do you have any New Year's resolutions?
I resolved to only bring the freshest quips and observations to this podcast. How's that?
That's excellent.
Wow.
Outstanding.
Okay.
That's a pretty high standard.
Well, nah, not really.
Do you bring joy to the podcast?
I try to, but sometimes it's kind of like, I'm doing okay.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about a few things, again, related to Michigan.
Right.
We did a lot of celebrating in our Mitten State.
Right.
And we had Christmas-a-cut.
Yes, we did.
This week.
Yeah.
And we talked about this last week, that portmanteau of Christmas and Hanukkah.
Right, right.
And when that term is applied when the two holidays coincide.
Yeah, right, right. Doesn't happen often.
It doesn't happen often, right. So we celebrated the lighting of the menorah.
Right.
And when our favorite New York couple came in, our son Matt and daughter-in-law Jenna, they brought their menorah.
Yes.
And then Jenna kind of gave us the highlights of Hanukkah.
Right.
And one thing she shared with us that was new to me is that it's traditional for those gathered around to hold hands while the menorah
during the ceremony.
During the ceremony, right. And so there's this beautiful scene of our kids all together.
It was very touching.
It really was.
Yeah.
And in the background we had the Christmas tree, and they all were wearing their matching Christmas jammies.
Yes, they have a good sense of humor.
They do.
They get Christmas pajamas every year. I think that's been going on for a while.
Yeah. I guess, ironically, when they were adults.
Yeah, right.
We didn't have Christmas jammies when they were little, but, they're millennials.
They just had jammies.
Yes, they just had jammies. So now it's still fun to dress them up and have them match.
Okay.
So, anyway, more to come on that.
Very good.
But I just wanted to show I'm drinking out of one of my favorite mugs.
There it is. Yep.
It's the most wonderful time of the year.
Very good.
And it absolutely is.
Yep.
It's when you get together with family and great friends, and you get to share meals and traditions.
Yep.
And we did a few fun things in Michigan, in Detroit.
Right.
This past month.
Uh-huh.
We I could say past 6 weeks or so, December, January.
Yeah.
So in December, we were down at Orchestra Hall, and we saw the DSO, Detroit Symphony Orchestra, put on their holiday show.
It was great.
Wasn't that fun?
Yeah.
And we're already talking about doing it for December of 2025.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And just got us in the holiday spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And then just this week,
yes,
time goes by so fast. We were down seeing another performance in Detroit.
We did, yes.
This was the Detroit Pistons.
Yes.
At the Joe Louis.
No, it's the Little Caesars Arena. It's all right. It's okay. It always changes.
I know it was the Little Caesars. Joe Louis came from, and it's gone now.
It's gone. Yeah.
So many buildings.
Stop talking about it.
Have come and gone in our lifetime. Okay, so we were at the Little Caesars Arena.
Right.
And we were there with our millennials.
Yes,
it was quite a treat.
Yep.
And bonus, they won.
Yes.
They were playing the Orlando Magic.
They were, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that was really fun. And then another thing that we did down in Detroit in December was you and I went down to the Fisher Building.
Right.
And we were shopping.
Yep.
They have one of my favorite stores in the Fisher Building, the Peacock Room.
Yes, and what a great little place that is.
Isn't it? It's first of all, just to go in there, it's beautiful.
Yep.
It's really well done.
Yep.
And nicely appointed.
Right.
And they have just this amazing selection of merchandise.
Yep. And the venue, the Fisher Building, is a wonderful. It's almost European. The vaulted ceiling and the tiling and it's just a wonderful building. It's a gem.
It really is. So it was fun to just spend some time, and we were kind of roaming the halls and And when we went to the Peacock Room, they have all, like I said, kind of a wide variety.
Right.
So you have gifts, jewelry, dresses, hats, things for everybody, really. And I think it was that trip we said, okay, here's a New Year's resolution.
Yes.
We thought we would once a month at least.
Yes.
Head down to Detroit.
Right.
And be tourists in our own hometown.
Yes, because we've been in tourists in other towns. And we're worthy. There's things to see and do here.
So much.
Yeah, and it's one of those common complaints where you live somewhere and you just don't go to those places because, I don't know, you think you're going to go to because it's so close, but you never do. So we're going to make a commitment and just go down there and see what's up.
Right. It just always reminds me of that taxi ride we had when we were in London a few years ago, and we were going to the Tower of London, and our taxi driver said he's lived in London all his life, kind of old guy, and he said, I've never been there. You always think you're going to go, and you never do. So we'll it's about time we do that.
Very good. Okay.
So also, speaking of Detroit, another Detroit-based business that I benefited from at Christmas was this necklace, and it's probably a little hard to see.
Yep.
But this is from the Divine Iguana.
Okay.
Another gift from Rachel and Sean. And if you can't see the necklace, if you're just listening, it's sort of a contemporary take on a vintage look.
Right.
And it has a sort of a glass pendant, and on the front is a teapot, and on the back is a teacup.
How clever.
But since I'm wearing the Honolulu blue, the teapot's more goes well with that.
You don't want to clash with the Honolulu blue.
You do not want to. Take that, Vikings.
All right. Ooh.
All right. So this is like I said, a company based in Detroit, and I love their tagline is "Easy gifts for complicated people."
That's pretty good.
It is.
Yeah.
All right. So they have a great assortment. We're going to be talking more about them this year as well.
Yep.
Okay. But for now, let's leave Michigan.
Okay.
Figuratively.
Okay.
And I want everyone to bring out their bingo card because we're going to be talking Jane Austen.
Uh-oh. Here we go. Okay.
And as we mentioned earlier, this is the year of Jane Austen because 2025, her 250th birthday.
Wow.
So we're really, in that spectrum, we're not too
No,
All right. Anyway, there are a lot of special events that are planned this year, including some from Barb's Tea Service.
Right.
So stay tuned.
Right.
All right.
It's all coming down.
It is. And then but in that, I want to share a book that I also received at Chrismukkah.
Okay. There you go. Okay, it's on there. I can see it.
Okay. And this book is called Jane Austen's Wardrobe.
Okay.
And it just came out. Well, it was published in 2023.
Right.
And it's written by Hilary Davidson.
Okay.
She's an associate professor at the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York.
Okay.
And this was before I talk about the book, I just want to tell briefly my first encounter with this
okay.
book.
Uh-oh.
So that was when we were in New York this summer.
Right.
We were up in the Hudson Valley with Matt and Jenna.
Uh-huh.
And we went to a lot of these small towns.
Yeah.
Quaint.
They're charming.
Oh, they are. So charming. And we went into this one store. Uh-huh. Merely that was in Troy.
Right.
And it was much like the Peacock Room.
Yes.
Just this eclectic variety of merchandise. And I saw this book.
Uh-huh.
And I was, of course, immediately drawn to it.
Right.
I may have even drooled.
Okay. Okay. Oh, boy.
But Jenna was next to me, and she said, you know what? You're going to get that for Christmas.
Okay.
And guess what?
Yep. That prophecy came true.
It did. And, with my memory, I was pleasantly surprised when I saw this. I was like, oh, that is great.
All right.
So, Jenna, that's very thoughtful for her.
Yep.
And
right.
So what is this book about? It's about Jane Austen specifically, what she wore and what styles.
Right.
This author has written another book in 2019. It's about Regency attire.
Right.
But this is very specific to Jane.
Right.
And she gleaned a lot of her information from, one, she gives credit to the Jane Austen house in Chawton for providing a lot of the material.
Right.
And Rachel and I visited the Jane Austen house in 2011.
Uh-huh.
And we share that visit with, in our presentations, in our blog, our first blog, September 2011. Okay. You can see the story.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Excuse me. So she got some of her material there, but she also got a lot of material from Jane's letters.
Okay.
Mostly to her sister Cassandra.
Right.
And then also there's some of her contemporaries that the author has also tapped into.
Okay.
But what's interesting, and we've talked about this before, how Jane's image felt needed to be cleaned up,
right,
sanitized.
Yeah. Well, that's that's the kind of the Victorian era coming into play, and sensibilities were definitely changing. And,
absolutely.
And so her image was, as you say, cleaned up, I guess. Not that I don't know what needed to be cleaned up, but here we are.
Right, for the time.
Right.
Because we had this image of Jane being this spinster woman.
Yeah.
Who
reclusive,
quiet, reserved.
Right.
Wrote books and
very one-dimensional,
kind of dowdy.
Yeah.
But we found that some of these letters,
she was a firecracker.
Oh, she liked to party.
Yep.
She enjoyed a glass of wine or two.
Yep.
She was very
a
little bit sarcastic too,
right.
which was fun. But anyway, through these letters, and they're said to have been, they estimate Jane probably wrote about 3,000
right
letters
over her
lifetime,
right.
and only 161 exist.
It's kind of a tragedy.
It really is.
Although, so here, there's kind of a segue. I think back in the day, I think the implicit understanding was I'm going to be irreverent and sarcastic and nasty, and because these letters are never going to see the light of day,
right?
And that's probably a deal. I'm guessing. I'm just surmising. It was kind of a deal with her and Cassandra. They're going to dish all the tea, spill all the tea here, but after I'm gone, this has got to get cleaned up.
And I think that's a really good point, because there in this book, the author talks about Jane's niece,
right,
saying almost the same thing.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
These were letters that were,
yeah.
Meant to be shared within that intimate,
right.
group and because some of the stuff that you might text or
yeah.
yeah. Watch what you.
That's and everything's just so much more transparent today because it's so accessible. You might hold back.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's good point. So anyway, we have what we have,
right,
and that's the situation. But this book is very readable.
Right.
She has specific chapters on gowns,
right,
hats,
right,
shoes, things that you can you can do a deep dive,
right,
and just go through the book. You don't have to be in order, she says. Just kind of flip through, and so far, I've really enjoyed it. And I'm going to share one item that she brings up because it's sort of how she puts the history in context as she's describing things. Because there's an anachronism that's applied to the gowns that we associate in Jane's time.
Right.
And they mention they're often described as empire waists.
Right.
So we have the waist that's very high up. Right.
Yeah.
And this was not a term that Jane would have used or her contemporaries.
Right.
It actually came about more in the beginning of the 1900s, around 1907.
Right.
These French designers were coming back with some retro designs, and they referred to it as the empire waist.
Right.
So something to keep in mind.
Right.
And I know when you've been watching some of these period dramas with me, you're not a fan of the.
It's not my favorite because when we would watch these types of shows, before I was really exposed to, Jane Austen and these types of characters. When I think there's the 1995 BBC version, Jane Austen, we've seen many times. I first saw it. It's like these ladies all look pregnant to me. They do.
You thought it was not the most flattering.
No.
Correct?
No.
Correct. Well, you are not alone.
Okay.
Because
for once.
Yes, you have some company.
Yeah.
Because you talked about the 1995 BBC version of Pride and Prejudice, which is my favorite.
Right.
But there is the movie 2005 that stars Keira Knightley.
Oh yeah.
And I like it. I really do. I think it's very good. But they had back in 2023, they had the Couture Cinematic Couture exhibit at Somerset Mall.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And they had a lot of these costumes from period movies.
Right.
And they had some costumes from the 2005 movie Pride and Prejudice.
Right.
And the director, Joe Wright, he worked with the designer, the costume designer for the movie because he went back to late 1700s when the first Pride and Prejudice draft was made.
Okay, sure.
It wasn't published until 1813, which kind of gives us more of that Regency style, the empire waist. But he thought they were ugly.
Yes.
They are. Quoted. They're ugly dresses. Yeah. So he worked with the designer, and he went back to just about a decade before, where the waists were a little bit lower, and the attire, the gowns were a little bit closer fitting.
Right.
So
this would have been George III.
Correct.
As opposed to George IV and the Regency.
Right. More associated with it. So. Okay, we're going to be talking a lot about Jane Austen.
It's coming. Be ready.
Get that bingo card.
All right.
Okay. So I see we've got from my countdown. I'm looking over.
Yeah.
So I did want to cover that DC tea room.
Here we go.
That we alluded to last week.
Yep.
And this is a tea room in Alexandria, Virginia, called Lady Camelia's.
Yes.
And we didn't go there.
No, we're getting this information vicariously.
Right.
Secondhand, if you will.
Secondhand.
Right.
Very good. Secondhand.
Yeah.
And this was actually Pam, our friends Pam and Quint. They had traveled down there to Virginia to meet up with some friends and do a birthday celebration.
Right.
And they made Lady Camellia's their place to meet up. Mm-hmm. And Pam did a guest blog. Mm-hmm. So you can see that in the December blog. Mm-hmm. And people will also probably know her from the part of the BTS team.
Right.
But she sang their praises.
Yes.
Really liked it. And I will mention this. She's been to some of our favorite tea rooms.
Yeah.
Claridge's in London.
Yep.
Cafe Florian in Venice. Uh-huh. Also, we haven't been there, but to the Ritz in Hong Kong.
Yes.
You know, that's got to be amazing.
Right.
Hands down, she says this is their favorite tea room.
And she's tough.
Yeah. I think this is pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
So they like the bright and cheery decor, overlooking the water. Mm-hmm. But, of course, the afternoon tea fair was tops.
Great.
And I'd like to mention that this also has, from their opinion, a great gluten-free offering.
Oh, yeah.
And for those of us who need a gluten-free diet or have family and friends that require that, this was great. They said it was exceptional.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of times when you go and you get this gluten-free menu, it's sort of this tasteless substitute.
Yeah, not quite there.
Not quite there, but this one was really good. So I think that might be a road trip this year, possibly.
Could be.
And, you know, it's very close to Mount Vernon.
Uh-huh. And that's on the list.
And that's another New Year's resolution. Mm-hmm. So we want to hit more presidential homes / libraries.
Right.
I've set it up for 2.
Yeah, okay.
Which seems rather low for an entire year. Yeah. But it's going to be a crazy year.
Uh-huh.
We got a lot going on.
We do.
Right?
We do.
And so I think that, 2 is doable.
Yeah, right.
Okay. So we have I have a quick minute.
Okay, yep.
For a little teaser on the in-out list.
Yes.
2025.
Yes.
So I, again, scoured the internet and publications for what's in and what's out. Mm-hmm. One thing that showed up on a lot of out lists were the lookalike contests.
Oh.
You know, Glenn Powell, Timothy Chalamet.
Yeah.
And they're actually, the person is coming.
Yeah.
Glenn Powell and Timothy Chalamet. They come to their own lookalike contest.
That's, I don't know. It's a little weird.
It is. And, you know, be yourself, folks.
Yeah.
But I will say, if there is a Rock Davenport lookalike contest.
We already have one. There can only be one.
I think Ed would win that handsomely.
Right. Very good.
Okay.
All
right. So, do I hear that sound?
I think it's happening.
Okay. Just want to remind everybody that you can read more about that tea room, BC Tea Room, in our December blog.
Yep.
Also, the Cinema Couture exhibit, September 2023.
Yep.
And I want to thank On TV Studios for having us.
For putting up with us.
For putting up with us for another year.
Yeah.
Want to thank my co-host and arm candy, Chris.
Very good.
And for all, I would like to wish you all a Happy New Year.
Yes, okay.
And please stay tuned.
Very good.